Can you really retire comfortably with less than $1 million saved up? It depends. Let's talk about a couple of things that you should consider. Hi, I'm Garrett Ray, financial planner here at the Wealth Guardians and the Ray Financial Group.
And I'm Brice Payne, and you've entered The Vault, the Wealth Guardians video series on all things pertaining to retirement planning. In this episode, we're going to cover whether or not you can make it on $1 million in retirement and the things that you need to consider.
Yep.
For example, what are your sources of income going to be in retirement? Where are you going to live in retirement? Are you going to move in retirement? Are you willing to work part-time in retirement? Is there going to be any kind of large one-time expenses throughout retirement? And what type of lifestyle do you live on a month-by-month, day-to-day basis? Is it extravagant? Is it modest? Is it somewhere in between? Those are the factors that we're going to discuss to try to answer that age-old adage. There's these like and subscribe buttons down below the screen there if you see them. If you're so inclined, you can click on one of those or all of them and subscribe to future episodes of The Vault so you don't miss any of us. All right, Garrett, let's go ahead and get to it here. We're going to be discussing in this episode whether or not $1 million is enough.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we want to consider? The first one we're going to talk about is the sources of income that one's going to have in retirement.
Absolutely, Brice. I think we have to start here. You know, most people, as they've worked through their career, right before they retire, in the back of your mind, you know, week by week, month by month, about what you have coming into the household as far as money coming in from your job. Well, when we quit the job, we've got to look at our different sources of income. Typically, for most people, that is a combination of Social Security, their investment accounts. Do we qualify for a pension? Some people may be landlords, so they've got some rental income coming their way. So when we add all these up, can that feasibly replace the paycheck that I'm about to leave? So that's one thing that we have to start with and know what are the different buckets of money that my new paycheck is coming from.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
The next one we want to cover is where you're going to live in retirement. Why does this factor in? So what difference does that make?
Exactly. So whether we realize it or not, where we actually choose to live has a huge impact. So let's take the extremes, for example. So let's consider the state of Mississippi and the state of Hawaii.
All right.
Yeah, so there's a national average of cost of living nationwide,
all right,
but the individual states are different because of their own tax laws. They may have certain types of, restaurant taxes, different import taxes, that sort of thing. So as we look at the individual states, let's consider Mississippi. Mississippi's cost of living is only 84% of the national average. Okay? But Hawaii is 85% higher than the national average. So whether we're choosing to live in Mississippi or Hawaii could make a huge impact on how long our retirement nest egg lasts. So by definition, that means if I was going to retire with that $1 million saved up, that only applies for my national average. I would only need $840,000 saved up in Mississippi to have that same cost of living.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then in Hawaii, conversely, I would need $1.85 million saved up to have that same standard of living if I were applying the national cost average there.
So that really does factor into it. Where you live, what state you live,
absolutely
really does factor into whether or not that $1 million is enough or not. Makes sense?
It does.
Next one we want to cover is, am I going to move? Are you going to downsize? Why would that matter?
So one of the things that retirees can consider that's really going to help elongate that nest egg and the longevity of it is if they're willing to downsize. Just consider a couple who had done the hard work to pay off their mortgage on their primary home.
All right.
If they're willing to downsize, not even substantially, just a little bit, they could sell the primary home they're in now, buy something that's a little bit more affordable, and right then and there, you've got a little bit of extra money left over that you can either apply to your investment accounts now or just keep that extra money in the bank to supplement your lifestyle. Okay. So that's a great strategy. Now consider another family who hasn't paid off their home. Let's say they've got a mortgage or they're paying rent. Well, if you're willing to step into a home that's slightly smaller, conceivably that mortgage is going to be less or that rent payment's going to be less. And the maintenance costs associated with maintaining that home or that townhome are going to be less. So it's a great strategy to consider for those with smaller portfolios.
Okay, sounds good. Next one we want to cover is, are you willing to work part-time? Getting some additional income going while you're quote-unquote retired.
Yeah, so most people, this may not be their first choice, but this is really another case where we got to start running some numbers. So let's take, for example, a couple who has, say, $500,000 for retirement. Okay, not bad. They've made the wise choice to invest that conservatively because they're in retirement. They want to be more defensive about their monies. And so we're going to only anticipate a 4% annual rate of return on that $500,000. Okay. Now let's consider their expenses. If their expenses are $4,000 per month, which is reasonable, then under those conditions, this nest egg we can expect to last about 13 and a half years. Okay. If the couple was able to work part-time, could be one or both of them, and earn an additional $800 a month or $200 per week, now their expectations go from 13 and a half years to 21 and a half years. And, you know, what we're finding more and more as we talk with clients, Brice, is that some people in retirement actually enjoy a little part-time work, keeps their mind and their body active, keeps them engaged, and kind of gives them a level of satisfaction, all while having the benefit of improving their overall nest egg.
Okay, sounds good, makes sense. Next one we want to cover is planning for those anticipated one-time large expenses. This is not talking about your month-to-month expenditures, but those out of the blue, or they might be planned for, they might be out of the blue, but they're a large expense. A wedding, perhaps you've got a dollar that you want to pay for a wedding for, or you're buying a second home, maybe an RV, maybe something that wasn't planned, a medical expense that wasn't covered by insurance, or tree falls on your roof and insurance company, whatever reason's not going to cover it. You obviously have to have a roof. This is not your month-to-month expenses. This is something massive, $10,000. $50,000 that you have no choice but to pay for.
Exactly. And so this is something that we see fairly often that people don't really consider when they're starting out kind of their retirement journey is, you know, life does happen. It's a saying for a reason. We have daughters and granddaughters who get married. Obviously, families like to help out in that celebration. You know, I think I read somewhere that the average cost of a wedding nowadays is about $30,000. It's crazy. But if we have a daughter or a granddaughter who we know is engaged and getting married in the next year or two, let's plan for that expense. Let's say we've done the hard work and we've paid off our primary home, but we're 25, 30 years later and we need a new roof. So let's plan for that. Lots of times what we'll see is people do a pretty good job of budgeting for their monthly expenses, their general expenses. But those one-time large expenditures
harder.
That's a little harder. Let's at least have the conversation. So let's anticipate that, particularly if we're talking about someone with a smaller portfolio.
Very good. All right, so the last one we want to cover, Garrett, is the month-to-month lifestyle. Put those large expenditures aside. Let's just think about a typical month, a typical year. What are we spending on that week-by-week, month-by-month basis? Is it an extravagant lifestyle that you're wanting that $1 million to pay for? Or is it more of a modest lifestyle, typical, simple, watching TV, having coffee on my porch kind of lifestyle?
And so, Brice, lots of times what we say is that your financial planner should have conversations with you that you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear.
Very true.
And oftentimes the lifestyle discussion can come into play here. So let's consider this. I like math. Let's just do this. Let's consider a couple who has successfully saved $800,000 for retirement.
All right.
Not a bad effort, right? But they want to travel heavily in retirement. And he is a motorcycle fan. And so he wants to get a couple new bikes. And she dreams of RVing, living the RV lifestyle
Sounds
as
like
well.
You're talking about me here, Garrett.
Well, let's just say that this hypothetical couple has calculated their monthly expenditures to be around $10,000 per month.
All right.
Okay. And let's invest these monies conservatively. So we're anticipating a 4% annual rate of return.
All right.
Under that scenario, their nest egg, they've saved up $800,000, spending $10,000 per month, and the investments themselves are earning 4% per year.
All right.
That only lasts 8 years, Brice. And so at that point, most people would say, hey, your retirement plan is only lasting 8 years. That's not a successful retirement.
Not in most people's eyes.
Yeah, not in most people's eyes. If I retire at 65, you're telling me I'm done by 73? What? That doesn't make any sense. No. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. So why would we do that? So we need to have that conversation. Really, the advice here is talk to a financial planner.
And talk to yourself. Be honest with yourself.
That's a great one. Let's be honest about how much do we have our portfolio saved up? What's our Social Security coming in? And let's really run the numbers on what our anticipated lifestyle is within reason.
Yeah, so. And a good financial planner is going to help you do that, because that is... it's painful for some people.
It can be.
They like to know what kind of monies they've got coming in. They like to know what they've already got saved, but they can tend to put on blinders when it comes to what they spend.
Yes.
And it does you no good. It does your advisor no good if we're not being honest with ourselves about what we're spending. If your money's not going to last you, if that $1 million that you thought, well, hey, I've saved up $1 million, therefore I can have a successful retirement. If that $1 million isn't enough to satisfy your month-to-month spending, you'd rather know now rather than later, right?
Exactly. Let's identify any course corrections early before it's too late and we hit the iceberg.
Yeah, so that's what we don't want to do.
Absolutely.
All right, Garrett, well, great episode here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you want to catch more episodes of The Vault, again, right below the screen here, there's those like and subscribe buttons. You can punch away on those and catch future episodes of ours. I'm Brice Payne.
And I'm Garrett Ray.
And this has been The Vault.